some more.
Yo, what's good, people? Izzy Max here, back again. Probably one of the final MDL videos from me. Definitely one of the only solo video from me for the rest of season 2. We did just finish, if you were able to watch the premiere or the video when it was done. Unfortunately, I finished second place. Matt finished first. It was a very close game. Game 1 wasn't really close, but he kind of caught me off guard with the Hydreigon. I really didn't have the tools to deal with that, and the Metagross and the Barraskewda. And we'll kind of talk about that as we go through here, because there were definitely some holes in my draft. While I had one of the strongest teams, these holes were kind of gave Matt the opportunity to just go in with the Hydreigon in particular, and I didn't think he'd bring it, so I didn't put as much prep into it as I could, or even if I could, I don't know if I could have actually went all the way through and prepped for everything he had. Like I said, though, I wasn't expecting a Hydreigon. So we did finish second, which is very good. I finished top 4 last season. Second this season, we had a very dominant season, with my only loss coming to Tay, as he played phenomenally well. I did just not click Thunder Punch when I should have. On the season, I technically should have been undefeated, but again, that is no disregard to any of my opponents. Everybody played extremely well. The league as a whole is really kind of evolving and just super, super strong. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and break down the team here. Also, leave a like, comment down below what you think if you follow the MDL. What was your favorite moment in this season, either from my play or the breakdowns or anything else? Just comment down below. And we'll go ahead and get right into this. I don't know if I'll be doing a whole season recap for the league as a whole, but I will definitely be doing this, so let's go ahead and go. First of all, were my tier 1s, and honestly, as weird as it's going to sound, these were the 3 Pokemon I was the least impressed with. Urshifu, it is very powerful. You can't protect in front of it. It did have 8 kills, 7 deaths with a 1 differential. You see, I'm going to kind of explain how these things work here. The 14.29% is its win shares. Its kill shares. So of the overall team, it got 14% of my kills, and then based on the overall team, it had 16.67% of my deaths with a positive differential. I don't have many Mons in the negative, as you see here. Indeedee is in the negative, but it should be. It's a follow me bot is what I usually used it for. There was a couple times I used it as a spec set, screen support. I just kind of did a couple of things, also setting that terrain. But that is one big issue with the 3 Mons I had here. So they were here to kind of support the Urshifu. The Thundurus Urshifu combo was very big in VGC when I was drafting this, and I was running that core quite a lot. But there wasn't a lot of Intimidate, and the rest of my team didn't flesh out enough to where Intimidate was like a for sure bring every week. And that's why you see Thundurus here only got 2 kills, 2 deaths. I didn't bring it very often, but when I did, it definitely did what I wanted it to do. So what I wanted it to do mostly was, if I was bringing a Prankster set, just to be annoying, which I really utilized against Hunter in the semifinals. It really just sat there and let me kind of advance my own board state and get into positions where I can just straight up win off the bat. So it was very good there. Didn't get a lot of kills. Really wasn't able to set it up offensively. I tried versus Matt, but then he revealed the Hyper Voice, so my set was just kind of null and void. So these 3 Mons honestly just underperformed. And Indeedee, it did get 3 kills, which is cool, but I think that's when I brought the spec set. Other than that, it was just clicking follow me. Indeedee out of the 3 was probably the most disappointed, because it does get follow me, so it did do what I needed it to. But grabbing that tier 1 slot just for a follow me bot did kind of feel a little awkward. So rounding out into tier 2, now these are kind of, well, the first one in particular is really kind of my powerhouse Mon of the season. Blastoise coming in at 15 and 5 with a 10 differential. And you might think, oh yeah, I was bringing it offensive Shell Smash next to Indeedee every week. No, there was actually a fair bit of weeks where I brought it with Yawn, Fake Out, Scald, Iron Defense, Body Press. Like, it wasn't always just a Shell Smash set, but these 15 kills were from a Shell Smash set, and the 5 deaths were from the support set. So if that tells you anything, it's kind of interesting to see here. But Blastoise, by and far my MVP. If not one of them, there's a Mon later on, surprisingly, who does kind of fight this Mon for an MVP slot. But it was just so good. And then pairing up next to it, we do have Colossal. So the Colossal and DD Blastoise was so good. It was really hard to prep for. Am I going to bring setup Colossal with Aqua Jet from Blastoise? Am I going to be Shell Smash Blastoise next to Indeedee? Just those 3 paired together were really hard to prep for, and just powerhouses. But the Colossal here, when I brought it, it did really, really well. The one game I brought it and it didn't do well was against Hunter, but it wasn't supposed to. It was a bait, kind of to feel out what he's trying to do. And we didn't really get it set up, which, again, I wasn't planning to. But 6 and 2, relatively fine. Next up is Tapu Bulu. Honestly, one of the most disappointing Mons I drafted. I was excited to use it because I've never used it, even though my team name is the St. Louis Bulus. I have honestly never used Tapu Bulu. And it is way worse than it should be. Tier 2, a little high for this thing. It doesn't get any fairy coverage. It's not actually a fairy type. It just has a 4-time weakness to poison. And it hits like a truck. It does. And it gets taunt, which really helped me against, again, Hunter the first time I played him. And it does get some key coverage moves. Mega Horn, in particular, is what I used against Matt to try to mitigate the Hydreigon. But overall, 5 and 4 wasn't great from a Mon with a monster attack stat, able to set the grassy terrain, and just didn't really do it for me. But Blastoise definitely one of the better Mons I drafted this season. All right, you're gonna see here we now have layers. These are based on transactions. So I originally drafted Flygon, and I was like, okay, it's a dragon type, base 100s, not bad. No, this thing was awful. So it didn't hit any calcs, and it didn't give me really much more defensive presence either. So I ended up dropping it, I think like week 2 or 3 for the Hippowdon. And Hippowdon here sitting at 3 and 1. I didn't come to all the games, but when it did come, it was super, super good. This was part of my Trick Room core, and it was just phenomenal when it came. Hitting good calcs, living decent numbers of hits. In the last game, it was Pasho Berry because it was able to live a liquidation from Barraskewda. So just overall good Mon. It was also able to set the sand for Colossal and giving it just a little more bulk, a little more stayability on the field. Next up, I originally drafted Aegislash. Now, this is a personal favorite Mon of mine, but good lord is it bad in draft format. Especially in a Dynamax format, you can't really get the full power of a setup Aegislash off because you will be forever in sword mode if you Dynamax it, and it has paper-thin defenses, so you can't really do that. So I ended up dropping it towards the end of the season because I kept trying to be able to use it, and I just never could, for Lucario. And if you notice, it doesn't have a stat bar underneath it because it finished 0-0 on the season, but this was a big key point for me beating Hunter that second time. I was able to set up the beat up off of Urshifu into the Lucario. It also came against Ryan, but it never hit the field because it didn't need to. But against Hunter, it was one of my only Glacier hard counters because it was a Shucka Berry, so I couldn't be hit, or I couldn't be KO'd with a ground move. And then at +4, it was killing with the Steel Spike. So this was very much a key Mon in that semifinals match. And then finally, Executor. This was my Trick Room setter. I figured since I had both grassy and psychic terrain on my team, I could kind of use Executor to kind of exploit that with Energy Ball, but it also got Grassy Glide and the Expanding Force. I never ran a physical set, but I think it was against Dark King, who actually matched up really well against me. I was able to flip my team around and run a Trick Room set with very slow Colossal, and was able to put in some work. So low tier Trick Room option, decent offenses, and it put in the work that I was expecting it to. So 4 and 5 is very good for this mod. And then lastly, these are my tier 4s. That first slot kind of evolved a lot. So it started as the Unpheasant. It wasn't really doing what I wanted to. It was still slower than a lot of the Tailwind setters, so it didn't do the job that I originally drafted it for. And then coming up against Hunter, I was terrified of the horse, and I picked up Shedinja. So the horse had to run Crunch in order to hit this Mon, because it was also safety goggle, so it couldn't kill me with Hail. So Hunter did end up running the Crunch tech, but that means he wasn't teching anything else, or he wasn't running Protect. So it did kind of facilitate running Ally Switch. I think it finished with like 4 or 5 kills. And then towards the end of the season, I dropped it for, I think, only 2 weeks of the season left. The last transaction week, and I picked up Turtonator. Trying to kind of bolster my Trick Room mode, because the league was starting to fill out its playoff slots, and I was looking at all my matches, and I thought that Turtonator actually could have been really, really good, especially if I could get Trick Room off, because the teams on the other side, I wasn't really prepping for my side with these transactions, but the other side of the league, the Blue Division, kind of struggled with some Trick Room modes, and Turtonator in particular, and I was like, okay, well, this could be really good. It wasn't getting calcs, and I needed a faster, harder hitting mode for a couple of the matches coming up. So I grabbed a Alolan Dugtrio with my playoff transaction. Looking back now, I kind of regret it. If I was able to set up Trick Room with like a room service Turtonator, I could have done decently well against Matt, because it does get all the coverage moves it needs. But yeah, I wasn't going to do that. Screw that. Turtonator's not that great. So I dropped it and picked up the Alolan Dugtrio. It never came to a match. I was building with it a couple times, but it just wasn't. It's tier 4, not great. A great tier 4 that I think should never be in tier 4 ever again was Frost Moth. So this was my second kill leader at 10-5. And 3 of those kills came from the match against Dan. But overall, this Mon was phenomenal. So it could set up Quiver Dances, it could set Tailwind, it had Wide Guard, and if you want to just put an AV on it with Ice Scales, you're taking 0 damage, even from super effective fire moves. I believe in the match against Ryan, it took a Max Flare from a Togekiss. I think it did less than 50% in its max form. So overall, a really solid Mon. Probably one of the best tier 4s in the draft. I'm sure I'll get a little hate from Ryan, because he really liked his Surfetch, but I will argue with you every day that this was the best tier 4 Mon out of the draft, and performance-wise as well. That's going to kind of wrap it up. That was my whole team. Mons that I will draft again, definitely Frostmoth. Probably Blastoise I would draft again. It was just so versatile in what it could do. My tier 1s, not really. Didn't really fit my playstyle. Definitely not as a core. It just wasn't great. Not a lot of Intimidate running around or stat dropping moves. So didn't really want it. Colossal, I will always grab again. That is slowly becoming one of my favorite Mons. Gonna try to fade away from it next season, but if it falls to me, it falls to me. I'll take it. Let's see here. Frostmoth, for sure. I think actually Frostmoth would be the only one I would definitely grab again if it came to me. If Blastoise came back to me, I would debate it, because I really don't like running multiple... I don't like running the same Mon in multiple seasons, with Colossal being the only overlap, but that is because it is one of my favorite Mons. So, with that being said, that is going to be the end of my season. I think I finished X-1 in the regular season. I did give a forfeit win to Noah just because I didn't want to play it. I was locked into first, I think like 3 weeks before playoffs. So it wasn't really worth me playing, worth me wasting both of our times, because he was also locked in his position. And then before playoffs started, I didn't play a real match since week like 5, because week 6, me and Dan kind of memed a little bit. And I don't really feel like that hurt me in the playoffs at all. I mean, my first matchup was against Ryan. It was a very good game. I think my team matched up really well against his, so I kind of got a good win off that one. Hunter, always scary with the Glacier Dragapult combo. If you prep for one, you're probably going to struggle against the other. And I fully believe if he went hard Dragapult, I was going to struggle a little bit. And then, and then Matt, where he just, I wouldn't say out-prep me, but I definitely was under-prepared for the Hydreigon. I was prepared for the Metagross, which didn't even come to Team Preview, and I was very much prepared for the Barraskewda. Other than that, he outplayed me with the Hydra gun. Let's put it like that. Not really out prepped on either side, but super clean match. And yeah, so took second place this season. Gonna try again next season. We do have a good group of coaches. We will be doing a couple things differently, but I'm sure the crew will jump on and talk about that in a later video. So with that being said, yeah, I'm the coach of the St. Louis Bulus, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.